I came across an article earlier today saying how the city of Austin in Texas is it's cutting $150 million from the Austin Police Department's budget, and it's going to reappropriate those funds to different services. One of those services happens to be abortion access. So when I looked here, it looks like their budget includes $100,000 going to abortion access. Which when I read that, I thought it was strange because I was like, okay, Austin's in Texas. When you think of Texas, I haven't really lived in Texas or been in Texas a whole lot. I have lived there briefly, kind of as a child, but when somebody thinks of Texas, they think of, pro God, pro gun, America, real conservative land, right? When you hear like Texas is appropriating money to go to abortion access, it's showing you that there's a real spiritual shift that is happening right now in America. Texas had a bill. The bill is SB 22. The purpose of that bill was to prevent any financial contracts between the Texas governmental institutions and abortion providers. Like, the whole reason that bill was created, I suppose, was to prevent taxpayer money from going to funding abortion procedures. But the way that the council, I guess the Austin City Council, got around that is they earmarked that $100,000 as abortion access, or like in those that involves not money being paid for the procedures, but money to fund the transportation to the appointments, or child care, or lodging, and it's related to stuff like that. So that's the way they kind of earmarked it in the budget to kind of circumvent that SB 22. So it's like, there's a lot of stuff going on. And if I'm not mistaken, if I read it correctly, that the city council, the Austin City Council, is majority Democrat. There's a lot of people that are Democrats that are going against what God has ordained to be correct, the ideas and the laws that are being passed. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to pit Republican versus Democrat, but watch out for that ideology. I don't really care. Now, if it was Republicans doing it, then I will go after Republicans. It just happens to be Democrats. But we, as Christians, of course, we can't. There are different schools of thoughts when it comes to defunding the police. And, you might say, defund the police and reappropriate funds elsewhere, but not to abortion access, as they like to call it. It's not right. We can't support that. But I wanted to focus more on the defunding the police part of it in general. Like I said, there are kind of two schools of thought. You might say defund the police and take the resources and redistribute them elsewhere to, homelessness funds, victim services, or housing, or whatever. But then on the other hand, it's like, well, if you take away money from the police department, you will have less resources available for public safety, for overall public safety. You'll have less officers. The city in Atlanta, I believe the police chief there just resigned because of all the riots and protests and all that pressure that's going on. Like, if the police are here to protect us, yes, sure, there are police officers that have done some tragic things and made some bad decisions and killing people, and that's terrible, and we should condemn it, yes. But overall, some people are gonna hate to hear this. Overall, the police are here to protect us. Protect us from who? From each other, right? If you defund the police, or the police just say, you know what, we don't feel, we're gonna just quit. Like, we're not gonna take this thing. I'm gonna go do something else. You're defunding us. You don't really want us here. I'm just gonna go work at Pizza Hut or something. I don't know. If there are no police, or if there are less police, there are less people there to protect us from us? Who's going to come when, a husband is beating on his wife in domestic violences? Who's going to situate that? Who's going to come when there's a mass shooting? Who's going to take care of that problem? The next Dylan Roof or the next, I don't know, whoever. Who's going to come when there's a hit and run? Who are you going to call? You're going to say, oh, call the police. If you defund the police, there are no police that are available, or there are less units available for you. You're going to say, why did we make such a horrible decision? Why did we decide to take away our protection? And again, I say protection, and some people gonna be like, what are you talking about? They're out here killing us. Well, I believe as a whole, the police are here to protect us. And there are instances where the police don't do such a good job. And those instances are blown up by the media, blown up by protests and stuff like that. And I agree that there are instances, Breonna Taylor, for example, that require and demand justice for those kinds of situations. But for the majority of other kinds of police interactions with civilians, we would need people there to protect us and to serve us. Like, they're here to serve us. So I guess the overall point of that, I guess, is if you defund the police, I think the governor of Texas said Austin's decision puts the brave men and women of the Austin Police Department and their families at greater risk and paves the way for lawlessness. So this is what I wanted to kind of focus on. This really struck with me. And paves the way for lawlessness. You're basically tearing down. You're creating a way for lawlessness and evil to abound. Like, there are less restrictions, there are less police. People are going to do what they want to do. They're going to do whatever they want to feel. And who's going to stop them? Lawlessness is going to abound. And this is just happening in Texas. This is happening in Texas, of all places this to happen. I would expect, some liberal city, like, say, or liberal state like California or New York, and heavily influenced Democratic states and cities in those states. I would expect that from them. But Texas is, like I said earlier, pro-guy, pro-gun, Christian, and so it's strange. So like I said, there's a spiritual shift coming. I believe that there's a spiritual shift that is happening right now, and we need to be praying to God for guidance throughout all this. I feel something's coming. Something. This is all working towards something. I feel. You might say, oh, Pastor, you don't know what you're talking about. I haven't quoted the Bible any here yet, but I encourage you to pray to God. Pray to him that you're able to see and discern what is happening during this time.